hacker summer camp craziness.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think hopefully some players remember where we were. Will and I played Dungeons and Dragons together, or have a few times at least. Will, it's great to see you. Um, I know you've got a lot going on. Before I introduce you and you get going as a speaker, um, what uh, what do you have going on this summer? Are you doing a whole bunch of hacker summer camp stuff?
No, I'm not. I'm not a typical like go to DEF CON and black hat guy. But I do have I have a couple speaking engagements and stuff coming in the fall. And then right now, I'm kind of focused on building up the business at my company right now. So there's a lot of engagement, a lot of conversations, a lot of the just general chatting and talking, and then planning out things in the pre-sale space for marketing and sales, demand gen, and chatting with executives and boards and doing what I do.
Yep. All that consulting and CISO work. It's
and continuing to give out free advice on LinkedIn. So whether you want it or not, it's there.
People will keep following us. So I think that means it's good.
Yeah. I had somebody complain about something and I was like, look, man, I'm just trying to help people. If you don't like it, that's fine. Like, I get it, but
that's a good sign. If people are complaining, that's engagement. That means it's working. They're seeing you. And you're saying something valuable. Like, people don't disagree with people that aren't worth, talking to.
That's true. Yeah, I took that as a win.
These are all things that I've had other mentors tell me.
Yeah.
So I repeat them to myself too.
And I do have to tell, I told Rihanna I got the shirt specifically for the event.
Nice.
So we're all Star Wars and Cyberpunk going on here. So
love it. For those who don't know Will, Will is a cybersecurity executive, strategic advisor, and internationally recognized speaker with more than 25 years of experience helping organizations align cybersecurity with business outcomes. Throughout his career, he's led initiatives across consulting, managed security services, product strategy, go-to-market leadership, and executive advisory, helping organizations build resilient security programs that enable growth rather than hinder it. Known for translating complex technical concepts into clear business decisions, Will specializes in cyber risk, executive leadership, and board-level communication. He's a trusted advisor to executives and security leaders, regularly sharing insights on cybersecurity strategy, governance, AI, and business resilience through conference presentations, industry publications, and thought leadership. And he makes some of the coolest graphics on LinkedIn that I've seen. And a man after my own heart on speaking not like a cyber nerd, but like a business person.
That's outstanding. Love it.
He's also a really creative player and sneaky rogue.
I do appreciate being able to play because I'm a forever DM in my past. So
well, then I guess I gotta get back into it so you can do some more singular role playing rather than all of the role playing.
Sure.
It's the hard part of being a DM is you have to play all the extra characters.
Yes.
You don't get to develop your one character. But Will, it is great to have you here. And I don't want to force you to start too early.
Yeah,
but yeah, if you are ready to go, I do have your slides ready. We'll do some fun here. Do you see the arrow thing at the top of like the slide deck?
I do not.
In Restream
slide deck.
If you like hover over it with your mouse, does it appear?
Nope.
Fun. Alrighty then. Then if you need slides advanced, let me know. Just say it and I'll be listening. I'll make it happen for you.
Okay. Oh, that's crazy. All right, cool. Yeah, I'll drop it.
Okay.
You can still see the private chat, right? Or the back room.
Yes.
I can just do it in there. Yeah.
Yeah, that works. Excellent. Without further ado, Wil Klusovsky, the floor is yours, and I'm gonna disappear over here.
Thank you very much. Let me get everything I need here. All right. The empire does not fund cybersecurity without a business case. So before we even get into this, let's kind of define the empire, right? The empire is not one person. It's the CFO asking what something costs. It's the COO asking whether or not this is going to interrupt operations. Your CEO asking what happens to the business. Legal wanting to know who owns this exposure. Procurement asking why now, or even the board, asking, did leadership make the right decision? Did they make a defensible decision? Did they spend their money wisely, right? The empire is anybody who controls the budget, priority, or risk ownership. The rub here is the empire is not going to fund cybersecurity because we care so deeply, or even because we are burdened, right? It doesn't fund cybersecurity because a finding is critical. It doesn't fund cybersecurity because a dashboard turns red. It doesn't fund anything just because we think the sky is falling. It funds what it understands. It funds decisions. So today, this session is not really about making cybersecurity simple. It's about making cybersecurity useful in those rooms where decisions are getting made. Most really good cybersecurity ideas and thoughts don't die in the SOC or in your team meetings, that are in your team sessions. They die in these executive meetings. And they usually don't die because you're wrong or we were wrong or they were wrong. It dies because the decision was never made clear. Next slide. Let's see if this works. Good deal. Okay, so scenario. It's a little after 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning at work. Security lead walks into the meeting. You have a real finding, not theoretical, not academic, real. There's risk, there's impact. We know there's a problem. Production system with known vulnerabilities. The scan shows it. The severity is high. The exploit path makes sense. The security team has been looking at it for weeks, validating things. So they bring the data, they bring the ticket history, they bring all of the vendor notes, they bring the tool recommendation and the remediation needs. Everything said is technically correct. But then someone sitting across the table says the thing that kills more security initiatives than anything in our history, and that is, can we revisit this next quarter? It's in that moment, that's where the real risk is now basically just become a calendar invite. It's another thing they have to deal with. So what happens? They move on. Now, why did that happen? Was the finding wrong? No. Was the security team lazy? No, not at all. Is your leadership team evil? Also, no. Although procurement does tend to wear a dark cloak very well sometimes, right? The issue is the room never got a decision. They got a concern, they got some evidence, they got a technical pain, but they never got a clear business case. Right finding, wrong framing. That's it. That's the whole thing. And next slide there. I dropped it down. There we go. Okay, this is the translation gap. This is where security is speaking language and the other side is not, right? So security walks into the room thinking vulnerabilities, controls, findings, tickets, alerts, tools, pain, stress, all of these things, right? And to us, that makes sense, right? We live in that world. We know what those words mean. We know why they matter. We also know what happens when those things get ignored. But leadership, the empire, they are listening through a completely different filter. They speak an entirely different language. Think of it like Star Trek and Star Wars. Right? They're both in space, but they're very different, right? The empire, your leadership, they're thinking about risk, costs, timing, trade-offs. What do I get for this? What get for that? What's the outcome? How does that benefit? Who owns this? The ownership side of things. What is the actual impact to the business? So within that same meeting, the same issues can be discussed, but having two very, very different conversations. Right? Two sides in space, very different anatomy. And this is where people you, people me, people us in the industry get frustrated. Security goes, I explained the vulnerability 3 times. Leadership, I still don't understand why this is happening now. Security is saying, this tool is going to solve our gap. This is going to help us. And leadership's going, well, I don't understand what business problem this changes. Like, how does this help me? Why do I care? Security says this is critical. Leadership goes, well, so is everything else. So is revenue. So is getting clients. Both sides leave that meeting having missed the point, much like stormtrooper blasts. That's the gap. The thing there is the goal for us as cybersecurity leaders, as cybersecurity executives, as experts, is not to make those leaders experts in cybersecurity. You can't do that. And also, that's not their job. The goal is to make the decisions clear enough that they can actually act. They need to make a decision. You're not translating technical terms into smaller technical terms or breaking it out so that they can learn all of the theory and the things that foundationally build up to the cybersecurity worlds that we live. No, you're simply translating the security work into business meaning. That's it. And that's really the painful, simple truth of it all. Next slide. I said painful truth right here on the slide. Being right does not mean you're going to get funded. Being right doesn't usually mean much of anything sometimes, right? This stings, I know. As security professionals, we are trained to be right. We are validating things. We're always right. We're the smartest people in the room, right? We're trained to find that gap. We're trained to prove the exposure, show the evidence, document severity, build that case from a technical standpoint. All of that, very, very important, matters so much. But that technical accuracy still needs business relevance. A critical vulnerability doesn't automatically tell or answer the questions like, what could happen to the business? What does this affect? How soon could this matter? What happens if we wait? What does it actually cost to fix? What's it cost not to fix? Who owns this decision? Who owns the risk if we decide not to do anything and accept it, right? What actually decision needs to be made today? That's the missing layer inside all that technical data that we live and work in. Most failed, denied, postponed, whatever, put on the back burner security requests aren't usually missing all of those technical facts and the data points that we're so good at getting to. They're missing that bridge between the facts and the decision that needs to be made. The problem is not always that leadership doesn't understand security. Sometimes the problem is security doesn't understand leadership's decision environment, right? And that really changes the room. This is similar to individual contributors saying, my manager, my director, my VP they don't technically know what we're doing, right? And in saying that, you're highlighting the alternate problem, which is you don't understand what they do. Everybody has a role to play, right? Their job is not to be as technically sound and savvy as you are, right? So again, that process, that thought, that mindset is going to change the conversations you have now. So it's not a why don't they get it? This now becomes what do they need to be able to make a decision? What do they need to decide? That is a much more useful question. Once you start asking that question, your whole conversation, your whole mindset and thought process on this is going to change. Next slide. So leaders are looking for business impact. It's not because they hate cyber. It's not because they don't care. It's because their job is not to protect the network. Their job is to protect the business. That goes way beyond simple technical controls. They need to hear cybersecurity risk through the things that they already have to manage. So you want to think in terms that they're thinking in. Revenue. How does this impact our ability to make money? Operations. Can things go down? Can we continue working? Compliance, legal exposure. Is this going to cost me money in fines or, make us visibly look bad, which goes into things like client trust? Insurance. How does this affect it? Not just cybersecurity insurance, other insurance that they hold, business insurance. Who owns this? Where's the ownership? Why do I care? Depending on who you're talking to about what. Where's the growth? Where's the advantage? Does doing this get us anything? Same security issues, different ears. The CFO sits back and listens, and they hear spend, exposure, insurance. Your COO, your operating officer, your operating team's leadership, the people who kind of do whatever it is the business goal is, they're hearing downtime, disruption, people not being able to work. Legal's focused on discovery, notifications, contracts, obligations. Sales is worried about clients, client trust. Is the next deal going to be harder? Am I going to be able to sell more? Can I hit my quota? And at all top of this, you've got the CEO worried about reputation, resiliency. Can we keep going? Do I make the board happy? Do I make the shareholders happy? Do I make our company happy? At the top of all of that, you've got your board, which is going, did leadership make the right decisions? Do we have people who understand how to spend money appropriately and to protect and control the business in the right way? That's what they're listening for. So when we present security in isolation, it sounds like the department asking for money. Cybersecurity wants to buy this. Give me money to do this thing. But when you connect security to the business impact, now it sounds like leadership managing risk. That's a very important distinction. Cybersecurity gets funded when it connects what the leaders already have to protect. You don't have to teach them cyber. You just need to move cyber into what the empire cares about. Next slide. That's going to bring us into a framework. So this is Ridge. Ridge is simple. Get out of the valley of technical controls and climb high enough to see the business decisions. Down in the technical valley, we can see every rock, every crevice, every bit of dust, every CVE, missing control, alert, messy exception, terrible API, right? We know it all. Leadership doesn't need to see every rock. They don't care. They need topography. They need to understand the terrain. They need to know there's a cliff over there. Do we go around it? Do we build a bridge? Do we get a Zeppelin? What does it cost to do something? Do we even need to go that way, right? And who's going to make that decision? So this framework here, Ridge, is going to give you a path to help them understand it. R, the risk. This is the easy thing. What could actually happen to the business? You need to name an event, not a finding. This isn't CVE-2-04629 or pi divided by 62, whatever, right? This is a production controller device can go down and be taken off of line. This is not MFA coverage is still incomplete. This should be, we still have accounts with high ability to be compromised, where have access to our payroll systems, our customer data systems, our e-commerce systems that could take those things down. When you give the event in that context, that creates understanding. That's your risk. Importance. Why does this matter? And why does this matter now? This is where you're really going to connect to the business. A vulnerability in a test box is, it's a conversation. A vulnerability on a system that's connected to revenue, production, patient care, constituent care, payments, client delivery, that is a very different conversation. Technically, same thing, but from a business perspective, from that topology, a very, very different meaning. D, your damage. What if we do nothing, right? This doesn't mean you delivering the message need to fake precision. Don't walk in the door with the $4.8 million average cost of a breach, according to IBM data breach report, blah, blah, blah. Use something reasonable. Use business language. Even if you don't have specifics, talk about downtime, missed orders, recovery costs, supply chain delays, legal exposure, delayed payments and revenue, insurance problems, clients not liking it, accepting the risk without an owner. Right? D, this damage is where the business is actually going to start to see what you're talking about. It actually has a price. We get to G, that's our guidance. This is very critical. I think everybody's heard that don't bring a problem to me without a solution. So what are the realistic options? This is a lot of times where a lot of security people will unintentionally lose the room because you're going to present a technical demand and call it a recommendation. That's not it. Leadership needs choices. And I'm going to say almost every time, give them 3, never more, never less, never 1. Option 1 usually is fix it all, most likely attack path, add some temporary monitoring, accept the risk, delay the work. Think about these things. Transfer some of the risk. Phase the investment. These are the decisions that the business, the empire, is going to have to make. You need to present them with those. Then in execution, what is the actual decision that has to be made? We know what the recommendations are. This is the part that has to be painfully clear. Otherwise, you're just having a conversation and nothing happens. What's the budget that's been approved? Who owns this? Who's going to drive it? When's the maintenance window? Is this regularly scheduled stuff? Do we need to do something different? What is the priority of this? Who's accepting the risk? Whose name is going on that dotted line? What's our timeline? That whole conversation needs to happen, because a security conversation without a decision, without an execution plan it's kind of like the weather. It's really interesting sometimes, maybe useful, but sometimes alarming. And without that actual execution plan, it just becomes that noise, right? This framework, Ridge here, is going to turn your weather report into an actual flight plan by executing on the E. Now, next slide. Let's hit on some of the biggest cyber problems that we have in our industry, and that is language. Let's talk a little bit about the words we have and use and do some scenarios here. So this is a translation exercise. On the left over here, you see the things that we often say, and on the right is that put into a frame that the leadership team can actually understand, use, and potentially care about, right? Patch 200 critical and high CVEs. Technically accurate, also not enough. That better version says we've reduced outage risk on our e-commerce system because that supports revenue. Now, the people in the room know what's changed. They know why it matters. They know what business functions has been protected. We need a pen test. Again, not wrong. But are you doing it just because somebody told you need to do 2 a year? To the leadership team, it sounds like security wants to do another test. Those people love running tests. Now, a better version, we need to validate the critical business operations and ensure that they're protected before we go into our busy season. Retail's a great example of this. It's back to school in a couple of months. We know there's no change windows. We should do a pen test right now to make sure that these systems are protected and won't go down and won't hurt our capability to deal with that high sales season. And also, we won't experience a target breach, right? That's a different conversation. That hits different. Now you're connecting timing, confidence, and business dependence. Okay, we completed our annual tabletop exercise. First off, hopefully the executives were in the room, but hey, not every tabletop exercise is an executive one. So that sounds great. It's mildly interesting to the leadership. But the better version is we tested our capabilities. We tested our plan to restore a disrupted system. We found gaps in the plans that we had, and we found ways to improve our recovery process so we can get back up and running quicker, so that we can have operations restored faster. Now, those sitting in the room, they hear resilience. They don't hear that cybersecurity was off role playing. They hear that they were looking for things to improve and our ability to keep business running, for continuity, resilience, things like that. Cybersecurity. We need security monitoring for endpoints and network activity. Very cyber language, also very clear. Yes, we know, but the better version is we need visibility into our environment so that we understand where attackers could disrupt operations, could impact revenue, and hurt our ability to serve our clients. We need to be able to say, this is the areas that are most likely to be attacked, so this is where we need to put investment. This is where we should be spending our money to protect the business operations. Same truth, different gravity. Key concept here is your translation. You're not watering anything down. You're simply carrying that technical truth into the room where the business can actually do something with it, right? You're not hiding the details. Those all stay within you. And you need to have those, but you don't need to present all of it. Give them the information they need. When they ask for the detail, you'll have it, and then you can unload on them like crazy. But at the end of the day, start with, here's the situation, here's what we've done, here's what we need to do. This is what makes you credible. This is how you lead with that decision and not with technical data. You support that evidence when the questions are asked. Let's go to the next slide, and we'll talk about a made-up scenario where we can actually put this into play. So we'll talk here about a manufacturing company. We're going to say they have a Rockwell device on the floor. That's a piece of equipment that builds things. It's widgets. It's all that matters, right? That controller supports a major part of production. When it's running, product's getting made, widgets are getting made. When it stops, work backs up. And we found there's a firmware exposure on there. There's also some network paths that we're really concerned about. Nothing's happened yet. We don't have any flames. There's no ransomware note, no headline. We're not seeing any threat intel. This isn't a post JLR investigation thing, just a finding that we found. So the technical version of this is very easy. We have a critical vulnerability in a production system, unpatched controller framework. We have exposed network paths. It's high risk. It needs remediation. That's flat. That's it. Now, this is where leadership may say, okay, cool, add it to the list, because they have how many other things they need to get done. But if we translate that, bring them a different conversation, take that technical finding and turn it into, this is now production downtime potentially. This could mean missed orders. Missed orders. If you build a widget for somebody else who builds a bigger widget that's part of, and then you're in a supply chain, and think about, you build a part that's part of a part that goes into a production vehicle. Now you're delaying an entire supply chain of clients. Now a missing order isn't just, oh, we've got this thing that we need to put up on our website and sell. Now it's all of your clients and all of their clients being very unhappy. That's a big thing that's going to impact client trust. Now you're not having a device conversation. You're having a conversation about business operations. If that controller goes down, the shop floor stops. If that part of the shop floor stops, the delivery windows are messed up. You're going to pay overtime. You might have emergency support. You're going to have delayed work with the customer frustrations we talked about. And if you're in a situation where maybe business ain't great and customers are already nervous, that outage is going to be even a larger trust problem. So we can see the issue was never, we have a vulnerable controller. The issue is there's a business process that depends on this controller that is vulnerable. This is what leadership needs to hear. Once that finding touches production, revenue, recovery, clients, it's no longer a finding. Now you have a business decision. And that kind of tees up the thing I wish, and what we're here to talk about, more security teams bought into in these meetings. It's not compliance. It's not a panic deck. It's not bringing 42 slides of appendix slides of data points. It's a single business case, a one-page case. On the next slide, we're going to take this scenario, and here's what you can actually use. You have, again, you still have all the technical data. That's all going to be within you, documented as you need it, right? But this is what leadership needs in one slide. We're going to start with Ridge. We're going to use this same example we had. We've got a known firmware and network issues could allow disruption, right? What's important? The device, its production. Let's say we understand it's $5,000 an hour. And manufacturing works really well for this because most people know how much money each machine produces every minute, second, hour, day. So we're going to assume if that machine goes down, that's $5,000 an hour in lost revenue. Now that's just that machine making that widget, doing that thing. That's not any additional costs or blowback that we talked about for. That's easy mathematical damage that the leadership can understand. We know minimum recovery time is 72 hours. Now we are sitting at $360,000 if this is taken down of exposure from one thing. Now add in emergency people coming in to fix it, that blowback from missed orders, recovery services. Do you have to bring in a special team? Client impact. If it's a ransomware event, now you've got negotiations going on. Are you paying it or not? So before we even talk about all of those things that we all understand are part of a recovery process, we're already at $360,000 in losses before any of that even happens, just that machine turning off. This is the same conversation that the maintenance team would have. They would come and say, the oil is low in this machine. If we don't turn it off and fix it, it's going to stop working. And if it stops working, this is the same number that's going to happen for however 72 hours. You see how we're able to spin that. Now, let's talk guidance. You have to accept this risk or reduce it. There's no transference here in this case. Now, that's an important distinction. A lot of times leaders will assume insurance is going to cover the problem, and it does not. Everybody's insurance is different. Read the fine print. That's the big thing. Never assume. But for the most time, insurance may pay for part of the mess, but the insurance is not going to keep that machine running. It's not going to help your client relationships. It's not magically going to restore operations, right? Then we get to execution. Leadership needs to choose the remediation scope, the owner, the timeline, the downtime window. Now give them the options. Like I said, you're going to give them 3. Number A, number A. Door number 1, option A. Fix it all. Patch the firmware, segment the OT network, fix our network exposed paths. There's an internal app that needs updating. We're going to add monitoring. We got 6 hours of downtime. It's going to be a one-time $250,000 cost and $12K a year to keep this up and going because we're adding in some new services and licensing. Now, the residual risk with this is a non-zero, highly unlikely scenario. This is very clean. It's also the highest cost and the highest amount of disruption. So we go to option B, where we talk about, let's do some targeted remediation. We're going to deal with the highest risk network issues we can. We're going to put in some OT monitoring, and we're going to only need 2 hours of downtime for this, $90K to put in the things that we want to put in with an $8K annual spend. So from us doing this, the risk now drops from really high, which it's at now, to possible. But we've also materially reduced that. That's your practical middle choice. Option C, we're going to just fix the biggest exposure, which we know is on the network, and we're going to throw monitoring and then hope that we can do something about it if we see something going on. We need minimal downtime, minimal $35K to buy some new tooling, $6,000 for some services that we're doing, year over year. The risk is reduced. It's still there, but it's acceptable, and we have some ideas of how we can manage that. So now you can see you're not having a conversation about security wanting money to do things, to do tests. The conversation is now, what's our risk posture? What's our risk appetite? How much downtime can we tolerate? What do we want to spend now? Can we do this now, or can it wait? And if so, what's the impact there? What's left? What's that leftover risk, that residual risk? Those are all leadership conversations. Your recommendations need to be clear. You can say, hey, I recommend option B now, reduces the most likely path, limits our downtime, and gives us a full plan of remediation we know we can deal with in the next quarter, which is also when we do our annual downtime for all of the major equipment. Right? That's a business conversation. Now we get to the decision, the most important part. Regardless of which option leadership picks, budget. Is it approved? When's it approved? Who's approving it? Who owns this? Who's making it happen? When's the downtime window? Who's documenting and signing off on this accepted risk if we have some of that, right? That's the difference between simply reporting a problem and then bringing in a decision. Next slide. So let's talk about what this means for you as individuals, for your careers. Because this isn't a boardroom, necessarily only a boardroom skill. This isn't something that only CISOs need to worry about, right? This matters if you're an engineer, analyst, architect, director, consultant, whatever. Before you do this translation, you're simply reporting findings, and you end up defending your requests, waiting for approvals. You get buy-in late, or you get brought in late. If you're worked in security long enough, you know how that feeling is. You get brought into something when the decisions have already been made and you're just there to check the box. The vendor decision was already selected. The business has already promised such and such a timeline, and now here you are. This is what happens when security is seen as a blocker or as just a technical checkpoint. This is the stuff that we as security professionals have been fighting for decades to get above and over. After you put in this translation, your role changes. Now you're framing decisions, you're explaining trade-offs, you're guiding priorities, you're being brought in earlier to situations. That's real career impact. People that trust the person, people will trust the person that brings in and explains the hard things, the complex things, and makes them understandable, makes it so that they can make a decision. They trust that person who can say, here's what matters. Here's what it could cost. Here are the options. Here's the decisions we need. That person becomes reporting on problems. They become an advisor, not because you know less about cyber, because you know how to carry the cyber security knowledge into a business conversation. This changes your influence. This gives clarity. The empire funds clarity. So bring them a decision. Next slide. So we're going to open it up. Q&A time. Most useful questions are not theoretical. If you've got something you've struggled with, let me know. Staffing need, tool request, whatever it may be, something else, I'm happy to deal with it live here while we can. And let's go. Let me look through the chat if I can find any.
Hey, I'll join you as I'm looking at chat as well. Zach or ZMF had this input. Reminds me of Alec Baldwin's AIDA from Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, which I don't disagree with.
ABC.
Will, you've been already said it. We've been working in cybersecurity for a long time, and you figured this out over time. My background is from Air Force ops and like officer training, and then an MBA. So we have similar thinking from like different backgrounds. How could the cybersecurity professional who hasn't gone to business school, isn't decades into this, how can they start getting some of this mindset, other than, through your resources? But what are some things that they could read, they could watch that might be valuable?
I think, yeah, it's funny. I had, because a lot of the content I do on LinkedIn talks about this translation, and I remember specifically some like threat hunter, threat analyst person reached out to me and was like, I understand what you're saying I need to do, but I don't have that information. And I was like, well, so this is for me where like critical thinking and problem solving, which is something we in the industry are usually really good at, you think about. Mm-hmm. And I kind of told, I was like, well, you don't need the number. Like if you have them, that's fine. I said, but in that case, it was like, well, okay, there's this, threat that you're looking at, and it's highly like, where it's going to hurt and impact. If you don't understand the full impact, then just when you're in that room or and you're having that conversation, say it's an operating, it's an e-com system, look at the CFO or the financial person who's in the room and say, if this thing goes down and it takes us 4 days before it comes back up, how much money do we lose? Right? You don't always have to bring the answer, but understand that they need that data. So if you don't have it, you can simply ask the questions to the other people. I know that was a roundabout way because I don't have a clear answer for what you should study or look at. I think generally speaking, my personal background, I got my master's degree in information security management, mm-hmm. simply because I wanted to be a CISO. And at the time, that's what you had to do. And I didn't want to get an MBA, but I also did go get like an executive MBA. I did like a 6-month program at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Great. So I think there are some things like that. I think there are some accelerated programs. You need to look at stuff that is going to, one, learn the way that you like. With AI now, like it's fantastic. You can kind of teach yourself anything, but just, be sure you go back and validate some sources. Some people like to read books. Some people like to watch videos, whatever it is, but find things that are going to teach you basic business acumen. What a P&L is. How revenue and margin is. Why? One of the things I talk about a lot is the business is a race car. It's a Formula One car. The business's job is to win the race, not spend all their money on brakes and seatbelts, which is what we are. So we get in this mindset of being, we are super important. We're it's so many people I know come from a military background, and we all have that sort of servant mentality and all, a little bit of hero escapism that's coming in there. And we all think we're SEAL Team 6 and Tier 1 and doing something. We're not. We're make sure you buckle up. We're, click it or ticket. Like that's what we are.
Yeah. It's
and that when it comes to like hey, I can't spend all the money on the brakes if I can't afford a really good engine. We're not going to win.
Very true. Very true. Weird side note. That point, there's the song like a Porsche with no brakes.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I was driving a Porsche with no brakes, I would be driving so freaking slow.
Oh yeah.
And
Exactly.
I'm hoping it's a stick shift,
so I can
just keep it in first and use the. Anyways, I like the idea. I like the idea, but I'm too autistic to know that it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But no, that's gold right there. So for you, went out, got the executive MBA alongside your other degree. There are books. There's like the 12-minute MBA or like the 7-week MBA. Harvard Business School, like most Harvard classes and a lot of the big schools, actually allow people to watch the courses for free.
Yeah. I'll say this too, like, and I alluded to this a little bit. If you're especially earlier in your career, right now, just get over the fact that like you're technically smarter than the people above you. You're supposed to be. That's your job. Your job is to go to work and like find the threats and do the validation. What people tend to forget is the manager's job is to go to meetings and make sure that you don't have anything in your way and you get what's needed. And then the director's job is to do that for all of their managers. And the higher you go up, the more you're looking at. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are cases where you have technical CISOs in small companies and things like that. But like, generally speaking, like, understand where your role in the company is. And that's not a, like, know your place. It's a like, don't get mad that the person you're talking, this happens interwise either. I think I didn't bring it up in here, but if you work in vulnerability management all day and then you need something from the GRC team, don't assume that they know everything you're talking about because they're in cybersecurity. They don't live and breathe in your world every day.
Yeah.
We live in an echo chamber, and everybody is egotistical, and that's not egotistical in a egocentric, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just your life is your life, and you always assume people know more about you than they do. Nobody knows what you're doing at work, no matter what. Like, unless you're really bad at it, most people don't know what you're doing.
There is very specific knowledge that different sides of cyber will talk about easily, but can't speak to one another.
Yeah.
I've been at conferences, like I tend to speak about GRC, but I dabble and I have enough friends and I introduce enough like new people to blue teaming that I know like what's going on with really, really niche, very like in the weeds stuff that doesn't get talked about unless you're a detection engineer.
Right. Yeah.
And then like on the other side is I've known enough pen testing and I've gone down that road of like wondering, do I want to be pen testing every day all the time? And so there's other folks where you have a conversation about like this tool versus that tool versus this tool in order to like find credentials or enumerate different things that if you're a SOC analyst, you don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not your job. And so like even in cyber, and then if you're the CISO, you don't care about either one of those. You're like, just do your job. Let me know what the alerts are.
Baby.
How does this fit? Give me the results of the pen test. Like,
tell me what I have to fix, right?
Yeah, I don't want to know the specifics. I don't have the time.
There's a question. I love this one. So what would you suggest for someone who's changing careers? Okay, so first off, I have a master's degree. I am a big proponent of you don't need to go to college.
You probably have a master's degree. Why I have a master's degree?
Yeah, because in 2010,
we didn't have to pay for it.
We had to do. I've literally told people in like who are studying for their bachelor's to get out and just go get a job, right? And the longer we continue going, I am, nobody wishes for the downfall of higher education more than me. Like it's a big scam. There are cases, lawyers, doctors, like there's sometimes you have to do it. I'm being a little facetious just to cover my butt a little bit. But so my whole point is, You don't have to, so changing careers is awesome in cybersecurity. What you want to do is look at the career you were in first and take all of that knowledge into cyber, because here's what happens. And I think one of the Forrester, Gartner, somebody's got a report on this that says if you're a CISO or a CIO, what are the top 10 things that are most important to you when you're looking at a provider to work with? Somewhere in the top 5 is going to be industry knowledge, right? So if you've worked in healthcare and you speak provider language, and now you're learning, threat hunting or GRC, and you're going to have a huge advantage over anybody else who hasn't. So that's one. Two, the other part is, like I said, look for training that you can take. Getting a job is very different. Like I can't go into the resume thing, but find ways to, like, you still have to learn the stuff, and learning is the most important. And then the gap is just, how do you show people that I have this acumen, that I understand this, right? Because if you can't say, here's my MBA, but you can be like, oh, here's a bunch of content I produced about the business of cybersecurity in healthcare, or here is, 3 volunteer organizations that I work, like, find other ways to prove that you have that knowledge. But you still do need to get the knowledge, right? And there's mentoring is kind of part of that. Volunteering will help you a lot. I think that's another great one. A couple.
It's a huge one.
Yeah.
Volunteering is can go so far.
Let's see. Do we have any other questions before? I know we got. Okay.
Well, there's this one. There we go. Do you have a technique for translating cyber risk to business risk costs for government entity, like a state agency, rather than a business specifically?
Yeah, and I worked in public sector a lot, or worked with public sector a lot. I was actually a public sector CISO for a little while. The process is the same. It's still the same. It's a matter of looking at the difference is, generally speaking, most companies are worried about revenue and making money. So a manufacturing company makes a widget, a retail company sells that widget. The difference is, in healthcare and in government, you have constituents you have to serve, right? Those are the that's the priority thing right there, is what happens if we can't serve our people. Now, depending on where you're at, there are still state and federal agencies whose job it is to make money. So you can definitely do that. So what you want to do is take that business cost and then translate it to their mission. So what I didn't talk about, because this is a bigger, broader conversation, but the way all of this works is, every business, even a government, has this top lofty goal of, we want to do this thing. And then those goals get broken down to the C-suite, to the V-suite, and they all go down, ideally, all the way down to the individual contributors. So every day you're going to work, you know that you're doing a thing to help my boss, who's helping their boss. And it all leads to, like, it's decentralized authority. And those of us in the military understand, like, there's a mission and we all know what it is. And we understand no matter what happens, if something blows up or goes away, we continue working towards that mission and how to get there. So when you find the risks and you need to translate that and you want to get things fixed, that's what you have to do, is, how does this actually impact the mission of that organization? And then ideally, if you can find a way that is the closer it is to hitting the top of that, the more visibility and more people are going to pay attention to you.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. It's all in translating that mission and the goals and the outcomes to, how does this make us unable to meet our goals and our outcomes?
Yeah, to win the race, right? Again, whatever winning the race is for that company. What are we doing to help or prevent that from not happening?
Exactly. Hospital, they can't help patients. Literally everyone in the hospital wants to help patients. If it's a services company, like, the whole purpose is to help other companies do good things. If it's, a power company, it's to provide power to everyone. And so if you speak, condensing a lot of the things that you just said over the past hour, if you speak to, we won't be able to do these things because of X, Y, and Z, not in a the sky is falling sort of way.
Yeah.
But here is why, because this interferes with this and this interferes with that.
Yeah, that's why that framework is so important to understand how to tie those together. I actually was having a conversation with a CISO at a healthcare organization, and so many problems around vulnerabilities and being able to patch. And because when it's patching, it's, well, we're taking downtime, and the downtime comes from clinical services. So you're taking time away from patient care, and that's a big deal. And I think a lot of people should understand, in manufacturing and in healthcare, the CIA triad is upside down. Availability is way more important than confidentiality and integrity in those organizations. They will forego those, because if it's somebody's life or the ability for that company to make for the machines to keep running, they will forego some of that security.
Hugely. Will, thank you. If I could play my little podcaster hat here too. The purpose of today was to raise some funds for Next Gen Cyber Ed. I know you haven't prepared anything on this, but what does why does that matter to you of organizations like Next Gen Cyber Ed?
I love this. I wrote an article a long time ago. I should refresh it. To me, cybersecurity is like Major League Baseball. Okay. We need a farm system, and we don't have one. So most companies today really don't have a place for entry-level people. They don't. And I'll be honest, as somebody who came into the industry from the military, and kind of like that's kind of a cheat code, and I don't advise anybody to do it. Right? But you have to get some experience before they give you the keys to the cybersecurity stuff, right? So there's this weird catch-22. So again, there's very few organizations you're not gonna, that are gonna have money to spend on getting an entry-level person with no skills whatsoever and investing time and money to them. I do think as an industry, we should have that farm system where if everybody, literally anybody company that employs cybersecurity people, just had like a couple of slots and kept them constantly filled. No, yeah, that person's going to leave. They're not going to work for you for 20 years, but you're going to train them, and then they're going to go somewhere else and work. And guess what? You're going to hire somebody that worked somewhere else who now has 5 years of experience. Like it just works. So for me, any organization that is investing in building up that future, because that's the hardest part. And as somebody at the top of the hiring pyramid, like the need for the middle, for the people with like 5 to 10 years of experience, is never ever going to go away. Like that's always there. But the people at the bottom and the people at the top we have the hardest times, and it's going to get worse if the bottom doesn't fill up.
So true. So true. Awesome. Will, it was amazing to see you again, my friend. I will be in touch for some rolling dice make believe soon.
Right here.
You have a good one, my friend.
Yeah.
Have a D20 to go.